There is some kind of understanding about intrinsic elements that you need to remember in fiction. Literary writing is instinctual, expressive, and emotional. Of course, we know about that. However, there are some points every single writer requires to make their story professional in style, effective in meaning deliverance, and beautiful in conflict. Grammar is no longer in English formal structure, but in English informal structure. There is still structure, but not in a very official status. I will explain it later. But before that, I need to elaborate some elements of fiction: characters, plot, setting, point of view, theme, and style in making fiction. Those are the intrinsic elements of fiction, and for God's sake, those are the essential apparatuses for every single writer to have in making a fiction. The first element of fiction is character. In some ways, the characters are the basis, the substance, groundwork, or foundation for the entire work of fiction. Every conflict must be brought to you by character. Character always becomes anybody or anything that lives in dribbling to conflict. It involves the emotional and mental condition of the characters you are going to make. Do not worry about the point of view, because that will follow the specific characters as you tell the story. The characters can be the people or anything that lives that makes the reader experience the story. In making characters, you need to know or understand, at least, their backstory. Their backstory will allow you to strengthen their character. Do you know why those who live in story are called character? Because you have to show the character of those people. Characters show personality. Personality affects their life and conflict. Therefore, it is very important for you to know what you have, but what character you live with. You can show it from physical appearance and mental appearance. Physical appearance, for example, you make a villager man with poor life. Describe him with poor dress, no money, beautiful house, and etc. Do not be average to describe something. The worse you describe him, the better story you will have in it. Mental appearance, for example, you make a character with very good arrogance. Make it with the highest arrogance. Do not hesitate, do not be afraid to make beast, evil, worst character. Remember, your average description will make your characters die. It is not about your morality, it is about the conflict of the story you want to tell through the characters. You need to understand the power of the characters. Your characters and their growth are the combination of your story to get momentum. If your characters are average, like good and handsome man with perfect life, your characters will be boring to tell and people will not read it. If your characters are irrational, like you make a poor man with good dress, your readers will not continue to read it. Your readers will have trouble to have empathy if you do not make a good character. They cannot feel what the characters feel, but if your characters feel real and relatable, then your readers will eat your story up. Now talking about plot. Plot is like blueprints. Plot is the connections and its structure determine the way you shape your story. It includes the order in which your characters face some things. It's the organized structure, the thing that will end up in an outline. Generally, plot can be seen as a concept split into some parts. There are 5 parts that you need to remember: exposition, rising, climax, falling, and the resolution. Exposition can be called as introduction, which establishes characters and setting. Rising action, which reveals the conflict. Now that your characters are established, you throw the twist and raise the dangers. It's the beginning of the problem. Climax, it is also known as the turning point. This is the greatest moment of tension in your story. Everything is critical, with emotion, with motives. Those are boiling up. This is the moment when things matter the most. Falling action. It is when something starts to wind down. All the tension is actively being resolved. Your reader has a deep need for that resolution in this section. So make sure that when you fix the problem, you address the issue you had been carefully setting up. And of course, the last one is resolution. This is the end of the story. Ending is not requiring happiness or sadness in the end. It means anything has been solved, and your conclusion arrives at the place where all the events or the plot have strongly led. It feels final, or at least final enough that the reader can put the book down without flipping back through the pages to see if they missed something. Do not make the reader question something, because it means that there is a black hole inside of your text. Again, this doesn't require a happy ending. You have the right to make your ending, it's up to you. But do not make the reader question something, that's the point. Now I'm talking about setting. It includes the physical location, or real or invented, it's up to you, and social environment of the story, including chronology, culture, institution, society, and etc. In many ways, it's like a character, but setting doesn't have feeling. But characters are forced to interact with setting everywhere they go and in everything they do. Your setting actually develops your characters. It determines, among other things, including conflicts. It is where the skills of the characters develop to survive. It is where the things of the characters have such a good weapon, money, clothing, transportation, and etc. It also exposes the cultural norms for communication, such as speech, body language, and relative rules for communication between gender, classes, race, and more. It is also where the character brings into the story, including conflicts of religion, psychological, philosophical, educational, and so on and so on. When designing your setting, it is a good idea to put some instruments such as weather, financial condition, environment, society, culture, and etc. Remember, the better you describe the setting, the better you make the conflict. If you want to put historical culture, it would be greater. Now I'm talking about point of view. Point of view determines how much the readers get to see. There is first person, you can use I or my. Second person point of view, you can use you or your. And third point of view, you can use he or she. Point of view is about how the story is seen and narrated, from whom it may tell. Remember, different point of view will make different correctness. For example, it is like when you have two friends and each friend tells you the same story with their own angle or perspective. Of course, the ending can be different, especially when it is about lies and truth. Everyone can blame anyone. You can blame me and I can blame you. That is about two point of view. So remember, point of view will create our perspective to see the problem. The use of tenses in narrative fiction depends on the context of the sentence or paragraph. Just remember the formula of tenses in grammar book about how and when it is used. Generally, because it is narration. Remember, it is very general understanding. Telling story, something that happened before, fiction mostly uses past tense. But it is not always. Remember, it is not always uses past tense. Talking about point of view, in literary fiction usually uses third point of view. The reason is extremely simple to understand. Literary fiction usually has a much larger scope of information of the conflict of the story, so you need to be able to take the reader to a various view. You can make the reader see through multiple characters, of course. It can make the pace of their story become slower, but the impact can be deeply powerful from your conflict and tends to explore consequences. The way you make the reader get into the problem deeply, the better you are successful in writing your fiction. Now I'm talking about theme. Theme is very simple to know. Theme is a hidden element, but incredibly important. It is very essential. Theme is what your story is really about. Theme is not uttered directly. Theme is not spoken directly. but it is the representation of the whole of your story. Mostly, a theme is a word such as love, family, environment, and etc. But remember, theme is not a genre. The examples of genre are thriller, mystery, comedy, and so on and so on. It is not a theme. All fictional books have themes, even if it was not intentional to be written by the author. Entering into the story of a character struggling with a problem can do a lot more to help you really feel and understand about the theme. By the way, this theme concept has some attractive consequences. Remember, you can find out the theme from the conflicts or at least from a symbol. For example, a symbol of a broken glass. It shows up representing individual details within the story, just like friendship fails and so on and so on. Themes sometimes appear in the symbol and motifs. The motivation of the characters to have the conflict becomes the theme of the story. This is the last part of the intrinsic element that I can explain: style. Style here refers to language style, of course. Style is the thing that makes your work stand out from everybody else. Style is your voice. Remember, style can be your voice. Style is the tone of your story. Remember, tone is the emotion of the author. If you are good in styling your language to express something, it means that you are good in toning something from your story. To make it simple, just try to see this example out. Okay, just try to focus on the example. I'll try to read it for you. John, come over, I will fucking find you and I will fucking kill you. Then I will fucking eat your fucking stupid bastard brain and take anything inside out of your shitty stomach and share it to fucking poor peasant, and I will let them rape your bitchy harlot wife and allow you to water her moaning with those of your laser cocks. From that style, from how I try to narrate it, from how I try to retell it to you with my voice, how do you see the narrator's feeling? Imagine how he said that thing. Give an adjective word, then it becomes the tone. Tone appears in your mind after reading the story. The way the author uses his or her language will appear in your mind that the author feels something such as angry, furious, happy, and etc. You have to develop style by working on technique. Your syntax, your word choices, and the tone all contribute to this. Your style can demonstrate not only your voice as a writer, but it is very crucial to indicating details about your story and characters. Style shows accents and dialect, characters' intelligence and observation. It shows the underlying humor or drama of your piece. Your style is your unique flavor, and developing it will not only take your entire writing career, but it is also one of the most rewarding activities as a writer. Developing your writing style takes work. There are no shortcuts for this, but that doesn't mean it cannot be fun. Just try to read a lot. The more you read, the more various words you have. Read books from different countries, different genders, different cultures. Read everything and learn as you go. Write a lot. No writing is ever wasted. Practice, practice, and practice. Just try to do it and spend time reading your work out loud. Besides reading and writing, just try to listen up. Listen to people. Listen to conversation. Tone is a very crucial component of style. You will need to learn how to convey that in your work, but you cannot convey it if you do not know what it sounds like. Now I'm talking about extrinsic element of fiction. After we talk about intrinsic of something technically you must have in writing fiction, now I'm talking about intrinsic element you must have. There are some points to see. The first element is message. Remember, message is not massage. Message is implied meaning behind the story. Message is not spoken directly, but if you have finished reading the work, you will have message. If you do not get any message here, it means that you did not read it well, or you need to upgrade your readings and knowledge. messages taken from the whole conflict. Remember, every story must have message to deliver. Message is not always about good thing or bad thing. It can be bad thing, can be good thing. It is not about your morality. It is about how you give a learn to someone. Message is something to learn. I always say, you will be always stupid people if you never read something in your fucking life, your entire life. You will be always priceless people if you never read something. You can reach everything. Of course, you can achieve everything in your fucking life. Money, GPA, marriage, status, or anything you want in your fucking life, in your wasteless life. But if you're stupid enough, your money will just spend your time is wasted. You'll be fooled by other and you will waste your money for nothing. And of course, your children will be having stupid parents. Imagine that. Read more and you will have more knowledge. It will make your life better inside. Now I'm talking about critic. It is something that you must have inside of your story, inside of the conflict that you are creating through the characters of your story. Critic refers to crisis. If you talk about crisis, you talk about problem. Of course, critic is the exposition of the problematical cases such as social phenomena, environmental issues, catastrophes, political spectacles, manipulation, lies, hypocrisy, tragical stories, ironies, and so on and so on. Your story should have one of those problems because you provide a text to be read by the other people. It means that you need to inform them about something problematical. You need to give learn for people that read your work. You need to give them a good work of reading. Remember, giving critic is not blaming. It is very fucking different, mate. It hypes up what we are afraid to talk. When you try to criticize something, it means that you try to hype something up. I remind you, psychologically, if you have read a lot of books, you have nutrition in your storage of knowledge. I believe that you will be open-minded people. If you are not open-minded people, I am very afraid, I'm very concerned about it. You will open to any critique given to you. You will not let yourself get eaten up emotionally. The better you read something, the better brain you have, the better mind you have, the better psychological side you have. You will not have high temper. You are not very easy to be emotional. That is the function of critic. You will learn something. In fiction, how far we can criticize something with fictional characters indicates how large storage of knowledge we have. Just try to be satire. The better you make it bias, the better you send critic. It will make your writing becomes very better writing. Critic is like a small pump and it bombards the whole country. That's the analogy. This is the last thing that I can explain about the extrinsic elements of fiction, and you must have it in your story to make your story better. Remember my words, Tragical Instrument. Your story explores conflict, you know that. Of course, every conflict in fiction is told dramatically. I am saying dramatically. It means that you may say it is about slowing exposition or excessive description, just something like that. Just take a look at the film. Even if it is based on a true story, it will not be told or narrated straightly. There must be dramatical instruments to tell, such as slow motion, hyperbolic language, excessive acting, and conflict. It's fine. It's part of drama. It can give sense and feeling. That's the point. But you need to remember something. In drama, you have to put tragical instruments. The worse problem you make, the better story you create. You have to give underline from my quote. Problems can be very serious subject matter about humans, such as suffering, terrible destruction, and distress. It can be from any way. It can be from a serious accident of crime. If you are able to expose it dramatically, the more tragical it will be. Remember, no pain, no gain. You will not get something if you do not give suffer. you give suffering things, then you will have better part in your story. Because only tragedy that can create the situation. Only tragedy that can hype up the emotion of the reader. You will declare to subjects if you try to use tragical instruments. You create a loser or winner at the end of the story. You create villain or hero at the end of your story. For God's sake, to make a tragical story, use paradox and irony. Do not forget about that. Actually, I have explained to you about the figurative language of paradox and irony, but it's fine to make it simple to understand for you. Just try to take a look at example. In making a story with paradox, just try to use a story with this kind of condition or situation. For example, a footless dancer. You can imagine how a dancer can dance without food or feet. Or an unable to swim sailor. A sailor but cannot swim. Oh, it's very paradox. Hate phobia pilots. You can imagine how you can be a pilot if you are afraid in hate, and etc. Those are paradox examples. In making irony, you can make a story of a dwarf-born child from a perfect couple. Imagine there is a good husband, handsome husband, beautiful wife, but their child is a dwarf. It's very ironic. And another example, a wombless, beautiful, rich woman. You can imagine you are a perfect woman, beautiful, sexy, rich, but you do not have a womb. You cannot make a child. How poor your life is. It's very irony. Cancer suffer lovers and etc. If you are able to make a story with paradox and irony, of course you will make a tragical instrument. And if you are able to make tragical instrument in your story, I am pretty sure that your story is readable for anyone. Your story is very influential to someone's emotion. Those problematical situations and conditions appear in tragical story, and your story will have the spotlight to be read by other people.